Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing amazing. So for today's video, we're going to be going through my September reading wrap up. And I have to confess, it hasn't been one of my best months, but at the same time, it's not been one of my worsts. I managed to read 5 books in September. And considering that I had a week away where it's pretty much go, 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 like there was not much time for just sitting back, relaxing and reading, I think 5's pretty good. But I did only read 3 from my September TBR. What I will admit is that I did not have the best reading month in terms of ratings. My highest rated was a 4-star, and that was my last book of the month. I think we've got like 2 2-stars in here and 2 3-stars. I am going to look at the positives and I'm going to say at least I don't have to read them again. They're not going to be on my future TBRs. So, you know, we have to find at least a positive of having bad ratings for the month of September. And we did get a 4-star. So I'm going to count that as a win. Again, just try to see the positives. But without further ado, let's jump in to my first book of September. I read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, and I gave this one 3 stars. This one started off so well. I had high hopes. And after the 25% mark, it plummeted. It plummeted real bad. So we've got Piper, and she is the daughter of a billionaire. So she basically gets her own way. Money's no object for her. She's a bit of a party animal, and she does quite some naughty things. But one day she does something that her father he can't hack it anymore. And he's like, you know what? You need to be taught a lesson. So what does he do? He makes her go to this small town of Westport and basically run this family pub that they've inherited. And even though the locals do use it as their pub and where they go to unwind, it looks like it's been vacant for years. But her task is to turn this pub around, make a profit, make it somewhere the locals will love. And yeah, it's completely different from her normal lifestyle. But of course, this is a romance book. So we do have a male love interest. And his name is Brendan. Sorry, I forgot. So we've got Brendan, and I was kind of told this is a grumpy sunshine romance. I don't feel like Brendan is very grumpy. I just think he's unsociable. I don't think grumpy and unsociable are the same things. He just didn't come across as grumpy to me. But that is how they're kind of portraying Brendan, is that he is a little bit grumpy, unsociable, you know, likes his own way. He knows best. So the complete opposite of what Piper is. But as that famous saying goes, opposites attract. And obviously, we have a little romance budding between them. This one started off really, really well. I thoroughly enjoyed it to the point where I was like hooked. I had to keep reading because this reminded me, and I'm showing my age here, of like early 2000s rom-coms movies, like, you know, the really cheesy ones, and you definitely know what's going to happen by the end of it. This is what it reminded me of. And then it just went downhill. So I believe after kind of the 25% mark, that was where Piper and Brendan had like met and were kind of flirting with each other. But what I will say is this isn't insta love. This is just insta lust. And throughout the whole book, I just found that there was no connection other than lust. Even though there are words on the page trying to describe their emotional connection, I don't feel it. And it is just based on lust. And you know what? I should have put this book down when the first time Brendan saw Piper, he spoke about her looks in a certain part of her body. I was like, okay, not sure this is for me. And I was correct because, like I say, personally for me, no emotional connection, just about kind of what they look like, just no emotional connection for me. And I do not like that in a book. I love a slow burn, yes, but like I just like to see how they've kind of fallen in love. I didn't really get that in this book. It was just like, yeah, you're really hot, I love you, you know. Don't believe it. I don't believe it. I also think the plot was lost past kind of the 60% mark. Like, I don't know, I do like a good plot as well. I don't want a romance just for spice. I want a plot, and I'm not sure the plot had anywhere to go past the 60% mark. So again, I was a bit like, okay. And then to kind of follow on from that, I found this book very, very repetitive. So the way they described the characters, for example, I know Brendan is very big and tall, because every time Piper thinks about him, they have to know how tall he is. And I get it, you want to paint a scene, but I'm sure we can describe him in other ways, you know? Like, give me a bit more than just his height. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what's lacked with it. And also, if you've read this book, I'm sure you'll be the same, but I never, ever, ever, ever want to hear the words recharging station ever again in my life. And obviously, this is a spicy book. I think we know by now I don't do very well with spice, and yeah, I didn't do very well with the spice in this book. It was very cringy. Also, there was one scene I was like, there is no way this should be happening, but it happened anyway. Just not for me. And also, can I bring up Velvet Helmet? Just no, not at all. But on another side note, the ending, it weren't needed. It wasn't needed. I don't like to really say spoilers of stuff, but I just feel like the last 20% was just a bit like, come on now, wrap it up. This was not needed. It actually added nothing to the story. You knew where the ending was going to go anywhere. I mean, this book is nearly 400 pages long, and it didn't need to be. Really didn't need to be. So it's just not one for me. Maybe one I'll donate. I feel like there might be a few that I'll be donating in this pile. I do have the second one. So is it Hook, Line and Sinker? I already have purchased that. This is the downside of purchasing books in a series when you have not read the first one. But on the plus side, I do think I will prefer Piper's sister story, because I think it's based around her, to actually Piper. So I have higher hopes for the next one, and I've heard it's not as spicy. So I do actually have higher hopes for the next one, but this one, it's just a 3-star. If you do like the movies, for example, like Wild Child, I do think you could enjoy this. I mean, it's different settings and like kind of a different story, but like that same aspect of, you know, like a really wealthy child being naughty, shipped off somewhere, find someone that she likes that's complete opposite of her. Like, it does give that vibe. And I just think for me, it's not my cup of tea, because I know what I like. I like a slow burn. I don't like insta last. I like emotional connection. That's not in here. So it's just a few things that I personally like in a book wasn't in there. Whereas if you don't care about that, then I do actually think you'll enjoy this. Next up, I read The Chain by Adrian McKinty, and I've given this one 2.5 stars. I did actually do a buddy read with my sisters on this one, which I don't think helped, because as a trio, we're 3 sisters, I do think we're quite cynical, and we are quite harsh critics. So I don't think this one stood a chance anyway, but this was bad. This was real bad. So I'm sure by the synopsis, you're going to be like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. So we have got a mother, and she receives a phone call, and that phone call is basically that someone has kidnapped her child, and to get her child back, all she needs to do is just kidnap another child, and then her child will be released. And the chain goes on and on and on. And if you don't listen to what the person's saying on the other line of the phone, then there's a strong possibility that your child will be unalive. So that is all you need to know about the synopsis. Obviously, this is a thriller, and it started off so well. Like, the first couple of chapters, actually the first few chapters, all 3 of us was hooked. We was like, oh my God, we need to find out what happened. You know, it's getting juicy, it's getting good. And then I can't really pinpoint when it was, because I just kind of had no recollection. But it was quite early on. There was a point where it just got a bit silly. And that is the motto of this book. This was just a silly book. Now, I personally think the author may have written this book in the hopes that it will become a movie. That's how it felt like. It was quite far-fetched. the things that was happening just felt like it was in like a action superhero movie. And I don't want to say what bits, because it could be classed as spoilers and whatnot, especially the ending. Like, the ending of this book is quite a big action scene. And I actually had no clue what was going on because it was so disjointed. Things were happening out of thin air. Like, it just was... it was just made for a movie, and unfortunately, it just made this incredible concept feel quite cheap, and it was definitely not executed in the best way possible. The plot went round in circles and circles and circles without getting anywhere. Like, the middle segment of this book, just, it didn't need to be there. I don't feel like it added anything to the book. It was just a little bit dragged out. But also, we are in multiple point of views in this book, and we are in a point of view of a child. Now, this child is supposed to be 13 years old, but the way that they are thinking, the way that they are talking, you would think they are actually 43 years old. Like, it just felt so unrealistic. Everything was a bit too perfectly placed in here. You know, the way that they thought, the way that they can get out of some very tricky situations, and they know the perfect scenario to get them out of this situation. Just things like that. It just made it feel a little bit too unrealistic, especially from the little girl's point of view. Like, I mean, I don't know what you guys were thinking at 13, but it was, yeah. I was just a silly child, who knows. We also have someone who has a military background, and he always knows best. He always knows what to do right for the people that he's looking after. He always has a plan of attack. Like, it was just, and I get it, like, he's got a military background, so he does know a few stuff, but also, like, this military talk, like, I don't know if you're... I think I'm just being nitpicky here, but, like, there was a lot of just dialogue that just felt really stupid. And on the dialogue, like, the dialogue was terrible. I can't actually explain to you how bad the dialogue is until you read this book. Sometimes this book felt like a children's book. Sometimes this felt like I was reading like a movie script with the amount of, like, especially that ending, what was going on. It just felt very disjointed, and actually it's so upsetting because the premise of this book sounds so good and it could have been executed so well. But unfortunately for me, it just did not hit the mark. The plot was long, boring, went round in circles, not much happened, everything was perfectly placed, and then that ending just did not fit with the rest of the book, in my opinion. And yeah. But the one good thing is obviously I did do this as a sister buddy read, and the messages that were in those, in that WhatsApp group, hilarious. Like, I think this was initially going to be a 2-star, but because it did make me laugh, albeit it's not supposed to be a comedy, but because it was quite bad and it did make me laugh, I did actually put it up 0.5. Like, if it makes me laugh, it brings out some sort of emotion, right? So I don't think it deserved a 2, and I'm going to lean on a 2.5. Next up, I read The Coworker by Frieda McFadden, and I gave this one 3 stars. So this is actually my first Frieda McFadden book outside of the Housemaid series. I feel like Frieda McFadden is very either love or hate. At the moment, I can't say I absolutely love her books, but I can't say I hate them either. I just think maybe they're very easy, simple, kind of palette cleanser read, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I do think this one, I may have pulled out a short straw. So for this one, we have got Dawn, and she works at Vixed, and she is basically by the book. She gets in at a certain time, she has her desk set up at a certain time, she's very orderly. But one day, she doesn't come in, which is very, very odd for Dawn because she's never missed a day of work in her life. But on the other side, we've got Natalie, and she is the kind of cool and pretty and sociable sales girl. And she is kind of the complete opposite to what Dawn is. But I believe they actually sit quite close together in the office. And Natalie realises that Dawn is actually not at her desk, and that's very odd. So she decides to dig a little bit deeper. And Natalie goes to her house, and it turns out she isn't there. So Natalie decides to go to Dawn's house to find out if she's there, which she isn't. But she finds something very alarming, and that is a pool of blood in Dawn's living room. And we are just going along the road to find out what has actually happened to Dawn. Has she been unalived? Has she been kidnapped? Who could be involved? So for this one, overall, I just felt this was a bit bland. I don't know. Not much was happening, and it wasn't really exciting, considering this is like supposed to be a thriller. It just wasn't exciting. I didn't care to want to know what had happened. And I think that, that's the main thing in a thriller, you need to be excited. You need to want to read on to find out what's happened. Whereas this, I was just a bit like, okay, it was just a bit boring. I will say there is multiple point of views. We're in the point of view of Natalie, and then we're also in the point of view of Dawn, but those point of views are in the past and in the format of emails. Now, these emails, I do not know if I received an email that was like 7 pages long. I don't know if I'd read it. Not in this context anyway. Like, they were so long, so unnecessary. But, if you like multiple formats in your books, then maybe this could be for you. And if you've read this book, you will know that there is an obscene amount of mentions of turtles. I don't get it. Like, I genuinely believe this needed another editing phase to take out all the turtle talk, because I actually thought, again, this could be spoilers, so sorry. I actually thought this would amalgamate to something. It really didn't. Like, this needed, I truly believe, another editing phase. I also think with the Frieda books I've read so far, which I will say that hasn't been a huge amount, but I don't really like the characters, not because they do anything wrong. I just don't think they're very likable. And I don't know if Frieda's writing them in this way, but for me, that just makes me not care and therefore not invested in the book. So I can't really give this a high rating because I'm just not invested in the characters, in the book, what the plot's going to be. So I think that is my issue with Frieda books at the moment, is I just have no emotion while reading them. So of course I'm not going to rate them very high, I feel like I'm also finding a pattern with Frieda books, and there are some twists in here, which one of them I got really early on. One of them I didn't get, but again, I was a bit like, oh, okay. I don't feel like they're the most like jaw-dropping twists, but also like the very last chapter, I fear that Frieda has a very set way of writing her books, and the last chapter I think was supposed to be like this jaw-dropping moment, but because I've already read that before in a previous book, it wasn't jaw-dropping, and I was just a bit like, okay, I could have seen this coming. Like, to be fair, I did see it coming. Like, I thought that was the outcome that was going to happen. So it wasn't a surprise to me. So again, it just felt a bit lackluster. There wasn't much to it. I felt like it was a bit of a pointless read. That sounds so bad. I do feel like Frieda books are very easy to read, and therefore this could get you out of a slump, for example. It's could definitely palate cleanser territory as well. Like, it wasn't inherently bad, it just wasn't anything mind-blowingly good. Just middle of the road. So if anyone has read a Frieda book that they absolutely love, like, I would love to know. I've heard amazing things about Never Lie, which I do have. I've also heard mixed reviews on The Inmate, and I also have that. I think I have one more. Where are my Frieda books? Oh, I have The Locked Door too. Not actually heard much about that, but I don't think I'm going to be running for the next Frieda book. Again, I think we're going to be donating this one. So at least we're getting books off our shelves to then buy new books. So silver lining. Just to jump in and say, if you are enjoying this video, please do like and subscribe. It would mean the world to me, and I would love to have you. I love to chat all things books. I love to know what like your all-time favourites are. I mean, I don't need any more books on my TBR, but I want more books on my TBR. So I would love to have a little chat with you about all things books. Okay, so my next read was Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I believe I rated this a 2.5, or was it a 2? I think I might be getting my ratings mixed up. I will put the correct rating in the corner, but guys, I'm so sorry because I know so many of you love Ali Hazelwood. She's not for me. She is not for me. I previously read her, is it Love Hypothesis? Is that the first one? I think so. Wasn't a fan. So we all know I was a bit apprehensive going into Deep End. I've heard this is very, very spicy too before I read it. So I was a bit like, oh God. This is just solidified the fact that I will not be getting another Ali Hazelwood book. And that's absolutely fine because you know what? Reading is subjective and one person's trash is another person's treasure. I will try and give you a synopsis of this book, but honestly, I fear there is no plot. Like, I don't know what the plot of this book was, but we have got Scarlett and she is a diver. But unfortunately, I believe she got injured and this injury happened quite a while ago and she's ready to get back into diving, but she is having a mental block in her head that is stopping her from performing at her best. And then we have got Lucas, and he is the swim captain, and he's kind of like the golden boy. He's at the top of the game. He is in the Olympics, you know, winning medals. And on paper, Scarlett and Lucas, they don't really have much in common. They are kind of complete opposites, but they have one thing only, that makes them very, very similar. Honestly, this book is 90% spice. It is something spicy that they have in common. I just don't know what the plot is. The plot is the spice. That's it. And I didn't realise that going in. So this was automatically going to be a bad book for me because I am not a lover of spice and I love a plot. I need a plot. I can't just have... I need something to grab onto, and I had nothing to grab onto on this book, and I just didn't like it. I did find Scarlett very bland. I actually forgot she was a main character, you know, like she was that boring. We also have Scarlett's best friend that is actually more of the main character than Scarlett herself. Like she was in it that much and she had so much more personality. The spicy scenes, very cringy. I was a little bit uncomfortable at some points, but maybe that says more about me than anything else. But I didn't like the way the spicy scenes were described, shall we put it? But also, like, for what this book is, this is going to come across as if I'm having whiplash, but even though I don't like spice, the spicy scenes are very tame for what they're meant to be. And if you've read this, I think you'll understand, but it just made the book, again, a little bit disjointed because I was expecting something with what they have in common. I was expecting something a little bit more, and actually it was very, very tame, which, to be fair, is most probably a good thing for me, but just doesn't make sense for the book. Now, I know Ali Hazelwood's kind of MO is that she deals with STEM, like a lot of her books are involved around women in STEM, and I just did not think it would crop up in this book, and it did, and I don't understand why. I generally think that part was put in this book so we can have cameos from other people in previous books. Now, obviously, I've only told you the book I've read, so you know who the cameos are, but it didn't make sense. It did not add to the plot one bit, in my opinion. It was so dry, this STEM portion, and also, like, this is a genuine question, but how can an Olympic gold medalist, i.e. Lucas, have time to be involved in a STEM project? Like, I get, obviously, Olympians have their spare time, but it just did not add up to me, and I don't get it. I'm so sorry. And then I think I think we were supposed to be dealing with Scarlett's diving career in the plot. It went round in circles and circles and circles, and we got nowhere. We literally got nowhere, and it was so boring. Like, I don't really care on the 5th time that you can't jump off the platform. Like, I know that sounds really horrible, and if it was a real person, then you'd have more sympathy, but it's not. It's a book, and it was just so boring to read. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, even talking about it now, maybe this should be a 2-star. I don't know, because I just did not enjoy it. I mean, I finished it, so there is a plus. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh for a 2-star. And Ali Hazelwood's writing, again, not for me. Maybe another one to go in the donate pile. I did say this is a bad month for ratings. And then finally, I read The Spellshop by Sarah Beth Durst, and I rated this 4 stars. Finally, a good book in the month of September. So for this one, we've got Keela, and she is a very introverted librarian who works in the city. But it turns out it's not a very safe place at the moment, and there's actually a revolution going on. And one night she wakes up and her library is actually on fire, and she decides to take as many books as she can and gets out of the city. Only problem is she has nowhere to go. So her first thought is to go back to her childhood town, because her childhood home is actually abandoned and she can set up camp there. And that's exactly what she does. But when she gets there, it turns out that the town is a little bit of disarray, because the Empire is actually draining the town's power. So she decides to open up her own little spell shop to bring the town back to its original state and bring back some of the life to it. Now, I loved this one. This was such a cute, cozy fantasy read, and perfect for September, and also perfect for my holiday to Ireland and Scotland. It just gave the perfect feels. I will say I absolutely loved Sarah Beth Durst's writing. The way she described things, I actually felt like I was in the little town of Caltray with them. It just felt so special and wholesome, and actually the residents in the town. So there is the kind of found family trope, which I love and I adore. There's nothing more wholesome than a found family trope, personally. And it really honestly makes you want to be a resident of Caltray, and just how everyone helps each other out and, sticks up for one another. It really gave that community feel, which I do think is lost in today's world, at least in my part of the world. I actually really enjoyed the storyline as well. Like, even though this is a really kind of cozy fantasy, there was quite a semi-high-ish kind of state going on, and it just made you want to read on, find out what was happening. So gave you that cozy fantasy, but also kind of another side to it where it was a bit like, okay, things are getting serious now. But what I will say is Keela, I wasn't necessarily obsessed with her. I don't think she was unlikable, but I don't think she was like super likable. But at the same time, I do think she goes through her own kind of learning curve, her own journey. And I think by the end of it, you are happy for her with like kind of what happens and the outcomes. So I do feel like she has her own journey throughout the book. And then we've got Laren, who is our male main character and our kind of love interest, and he is so adorable. He's so cute. But I think the star of the show was Kaz, who is a talking spider plant, and he has the most personality in this book. And he's a plant. Like, I think that says a lot about our female main character, Keela. Like, I did find her a bit, I don't want to say boring. I feel like I've used boring a lot, but just a bit plain. Whereas Kaz, he has all the personality that you need, and he's so adorable. And yeah, I just love that addition. Overall, I just really enjoyed this. This is such a cozy fantasy read, but with so much more substance to it. And I would definitely recommend, especially for like this time of year. I know we're in October now, but I still feel like you could sneak in a little cozy fantasy if you wanted to. And that is a wrap on my September reading month. As I mentioned, not the best month, especially in terms of ratings, but October is already looking better for me. But on that note, I'm going to leave this one here. I would love to know if you've read any of the books on my September reading wrap up. What was your favourite read of September? I would love to know all the tea. But I hope you have a fantastic October, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye.